Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back in War Thunder looking at another user-created model. This one is the BAC Lightning F1 and it's made once again by Snozzletoph. If you want to have a look at the model or see some more information, there is a link in the description of this video. There is also a link to the TEC Hub Discord where we are doing 31 days of giveaways for the month of December. To celebrate Christmas, to bring the community together, we are giving away, games. We're going to be doing GE prizes. We're also going to have some more events such as watching Christmas films together, and also art competitions and even Photoshop competitions and all these things. So if you want to get involved, there is a link there in the description to do so. On top of this, the TECWS Squadron, the Warrior Squad in War Thunder, is once again open for applications. So if you want to get become part of the TECWS, all you have to do is find it on War Thunder and you'll be able to join. So, what we're going to do in this video? Well, we're going to talk about the Lightning F1, we'll talk about some of its history, and then of course, will it have a place in the game? I know I've been covering a lot of British jets recently, and that's basically because those are the models out there which are still working. There's a lot of models I would love to cover for you guys on the War Thunder Live, but unfortunately a lot of them are quite old and they haven't been updated, such as a VK1602 one, which is a Leopard tank. Now, if you don't know what the Leopard is, it's kind of like a mini Panther. And then there's also a Blom & Voss BV141. There's an A10 model which needs to be updated, and a Tornado model. But hopefully at some point these will get updated. All we can do as a community is make sure to let the model makers know that they are appreciated, and their work itself is definitely a lovely thing for the community. But anyway, let's get talking about the Lightning and what it is. The English Electric Supersonic Interceptor, or the WG-760, was piloted by Roland Beaumont, which first flew at Boscombe Down, Wiltshire, as the P1 on the 4th of August 1954. The initial designs were led by WEW Teddy Peter, although the aircraft is almost credited to his successor Freddie Page, who later Sir Frederick Page and chairman of the aircraft group of BAC and eventually British Aerospace. The Lightning's highly swept wing, it's at 60 degrees, combined with the two Rolls-Royce Avon engines, which were initial flights of the P1, utilized unreheated Armstrong Siddeley Sapphire engines. So the Avon engines seem to be a mainstay for a lot of these jets that we've had a look at, and obviously around the 50s period the Rolls-Royce Avons were the ones to go for. These were configured in a unique staggered arrangement within the fuselage, which provided the aircraft with a speed of Mach 2 and an unrivaled rate of climb, which was often described as being a pilot sitting on two rockets. So we have had a look at a few other jets which were either approaching Mach 1 or pretty close to Mach 1 or just slightly past it. The Lightning, even with its prototypes, was smashing very, very high speeds. If you want to kind of know what it's talking about with the staggered idea, you know how most engines are kind of horizontal to each other? Well, in this aircraft, they are vertical. So because of that, obviously that's very different to what you normally see. There was only 3 P1 aircraft which were completed. There was 2 flying aircraft and 1 static test aircraft, and with the introduction of the variously modified successor aircraft, they were retrospectively designated the P1As. And then they made some P1B variants, which were officially renamed as the English Electric Lightning in May of 1956. So we're talking about mid-50s here, still in the time period that Gaijin has put out, or put out ages ago, I should say, for jets. The first production variant of the F1, of which 19 were built, these were then followed by a further 28 F1A variants. So the F1 is the one that we're having a look at in game. being the first production variant of the machine. Understand that there were plenty of others after it as well. The first operational Lightning saw service as an interceptor to defend the V-Force airfields during the Cold War, although the range of early variants proved to be restrictive in other roles. The ultimate Lightning in RAF service was the F6, which could carry two 260-gallon ferry or drop tanks on pylons fitted above the wings. And the official ceiling of the Lightning was a closely guarded secret, though it is said to be in excess of 60,000 feet, and it is well renowned for its exceptional rate of climb at 20,000 feet per minute. So you can kind of see how this thing would pretty much blow everything out of the water when it comes to actual just raw power in the game. So even though the Lightning itself, it was never actually credited with an official kill. There was a Lightning which did shoot down one aircraft when it was called upon to deal with a Harrier, which unintentionally continued to head for the East German border after the pilot had ejected following apparent engine failure. So at least it had, one kill to its name, even though it was technically a friendly aircraft. It was something that had to be done to make sure that the technology didn't get into enemy hands, I suppose. Or maybe not enemy, but, neutral hands. The English Electric Lightning continued in service with the RAF until 1988, and some 337 aircraft were built in its 34-year history. So other military operators included the Kuwait Air Force and also the Royal Saudi Air Force. Although proposed, the Sea Lightning, which was the FAW-1, it was never actually built. So this thing, compared to the other aircraft we've had a look at, had an incredibly successful lifespan. And out of the 4 main jets that we've had a look at, it is definitely the one which is probably not going to come to game the most, at least for now. If you look at stuff like the Swift you can make some very good arguments for it being into game. It's actually not that, its top speed is not that much higher than what we already have in game, and the DEFers, well, we already have in game, and the maneuverability of the machine isn't always the best. The main arguments against it are stuff like, well, it could use air-to-air missiles and things like this, but I mean, you could just not add that variant in. The Scimitar is faster, obviously quite a fast machine, and with that said, that normally brings a lot of problems. Generally, what we haven't seen is anything that can go past Mach 1. So the Scimitar is one of those which is kind of on the line when it comes to that. And once again, heavily armed, quite unmaneuverable, at least the test model in game is. And then the last one, which is of course the Vulcan. Now the Vulcan is hotly debated between many War Thunder communities, but for me personally, when I have a look at the Vulcan, I do not see its place in the game in this current iteration, and with the general belief by the player base, of the fact that these heavy bombers, they don't really like them in the game, or they think they have quite a negative impact on the game just because of the general playstyle, I don't see it coming to the game anytime soon. But with the Lightning, this F1, there is no way this gets anywhere near the game in its current iteration. There is nothing that could touch it when we look at other nations. And yes, stuff could maneuver with it, but if you have a pilot who knows exactly what he's doing, which is where you kind of the way I see like aircraft, right, is you have to match it up to the optimal point, which means that you have to look at what the best pilot in that machine will do with it, and then you have to go from there. I know a lot of people like to work on the average, but then you start getting some really broken machines in specific people's hands. So we have to look at the optimum player when it comes to the Lightning, and all they'll do is energy fight you all day, take you up into a climb, annihilate you on the way down, What they'll also do is just run away as fast as they can if they need to set up head-ons. On top of this, what they'll do is they'll just outspeed you. They'll wait until you run out of fuel and then go and buzz you, because there's no way AA is getting anywhere near you as well. So with the Lightning, we are really looking at a machine that would have to have counterparts from other nations. I think there is an argument for stuff like the Swift and the Scimitar to be put into the game today. Would they be some of the best vehicles in game? Of course they would be, but they are not too far ahead of what we already have. The Lightning, though, is leaps and bounds ahead of what we have. So for me, there would have to be a designated rank 6 or even rank 7 for an aircraft like this, and I think it can be done. What we've seen with the introduction of helicopters and the introduction of stuff like the FJ4B with the AGMs is that not balancing mechanics across the game is generally quite a bad idea. So I think what would be better would be once the Lightning is put into game, which I'm sure eventually it will if we look at the modernization of tanks that we have in the game. I can see jets happening the same. Then we need to have counterparts from other nations, or at least have, pick a few nations that you're going to go, rank 6 with, and then add the others to it, kind of like how they did with tanks. I hope that that will happen. I hope that is the case. Even though I'm not a jet player myself, I do see the love for these machines, and I do want the community to get, what they want. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll see you next time.